Okay. All right. So we got, okay, G-Man. All right. Shalom. Pacific Islanders. All right. So the Pacific Islanders are not Israelites. All right. Because when you go to Genesis, the 10th chapter, let me show you. All right. When you go to Genesis, the 10th chapter, and we start at verse 2, remember, there were 3 sons out of Noah who repopulated the flood. So when you read Genesis 10, we're going to start at verse 2. It says the sons of Japheth, which were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Yavan, Tubal, Meshach, and Tiras. Now, this is important is because the word we're going to focus on is Madai and Javan. Now, I'm going to go into Madai and I'm going to show you something. Or actually, let me see. How do I actually want to do this? Actually, we're going to do it this way. I'm going to go into Yavan. All right. Now, when you go into Yavan, listen closely, G-Man. When you look up Javan, which in the Hebrew is pronounced Yawan, notice it says in the outline biblical usage, Ionia or Greece. Okay. Now, G-Man, I'm going to ask you, according to secular history, who were the Ionians or the Etruscans? Do you know? It's a simple yes or no. If you don't know, that's okay. But I just want to see how far you understand secular history. Who were the Ionians and the Etruscans? All right. And while we know, okay, cool. So I'm going to teach you. Now, when you look up secular history, these were your Etruscans, all right, which in Eurasia at the time, they owned the lands of Italy, Greece, which is where you get Ionia and or Yawan. Now, let's have a look here because these will be considered your Polynesians or Pacific Islanders today. They were your true Japhetic people. Now, it says, when last we left Etruria, because before the Pacific Islanders took over the islands, your true heritage, your true land went back to Eurasia. You owned all of Europe. That was Japheth's land. And we're going to show you. It says, when last we left Etruria, we were mystified by the Etruscans' policy of not helping each other when faced with a common threat. This incredible policy would, of course, have devastating effects. Moving ahead to perhaps 1100 BC, it is about this time the albino people, which today will be the so-called white T-man, right, from the Eurasian plains, now called the Latins, which means they were your Romans. All right. And real quick, to prove what I'm saying, let's get a book. Who were your Latins back then? Your Romans. You have a book called The Roman Empire, the Empire of the Edomite, the so-called white T-man today. They were calling themselves Latins, but they were not the true Latins. The true Latins were these people right here that you see on the screen, or this statue that looked like what? The Pacific Islanders today. They were the true Latins. So when you continue to read on, it says, later known as the Romans migrated in, these Latins, Salakia, it says these Latins, all right, may have accompanied the Hellenes into Greece and then continue on into Italy. The nature of the early contact between the two peoples is unknown, but the later relationship is well known to be one of violence, right? Now, when you read down, it says soon after the invasion of whites from Eurasia begun, because what did the so-called white T-man, what is he known for doing, G-man? He's known to going over and taking over people's lands and heritage. It says soon after the invasion, a coalition of original so-called black inhabitants of Italy, which were your Pacific Islanders, because those people ruled Europe. That was their land before they got pushed out. It says of Italy, Greece, and Aegean area formed a conglomeration called the Sea People. Are not Pacific Islanders known as Sea People? They boarded ships with all of their belongings and fled the area. And where do you think, G-Man, those people ended up today? They ended up at places like New Zealand, Hawaii, Tonga, Fiji, the islands, Oh, but wait, it gets better. It gets better, G-Man. Check this out. So these people right here will be the Pacific Islanders' ancestors. This is how they looked back then. They were your Etruscans, Javan or Yawan, right? Here's another statue. Let's read it. It says, as Caucasians kept coming in, Rome soon became a large city, similar to the powerful cities of southern Etruria, and it had also become predominantly Caucasian. Accordingly, it was a Caucasian uprising that drove the Etruscans from Rome. So those people were driven out of their land. That's how they ended up in the Pacific coast. You see? And it says in 480 BC, Etruria's ally Carthage was defeated by a coalition of Magna Graecia. All right. Cities led by Syracuse. Later, it was a coalition, okay, of Caucasians, Latins, and New Greeks that led the Etruscans withdraw from the whole Latium in 475 BC. So now we got to do some mapping, G-Man, because check this out. Now, remember we read here, the sons of Japhet. When you read verse 5, it says, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, meaning language, after their families and nations. Now watch this. We're going to go into that word isles. I'm going to show you something. And we're going to link the Pacific Islanders to Japhet today to prove to you who they truly are as a people. Now, when we go into the isles, okay, that word ayah, okay, which is really how you say it, ayah, if you understand the Hebrew. Notice it says coast, island, shore, region, right? And today, when you follow really those people, the Pacific Islanders, there's a reason why they call them islanders, because this is the name or the isle that they will be designated on. Now, when you come down here to the Jacenius Hebrew Chaldee lexicon, if we click on that, you see right here where it says Indian archipelago. See that? I want you to record that word down really quickly, screenshot it, or just make a note of it. Indian archipelago. Now I'm going to show you something, G-Man, and the rest of the brethren that's reviewing this. Now I'm going to go to Google real quick, and we're going to take our time with this, and I'm going to show you something. All right, I'm going to type this in. All right, Indian archipelago. All right. And let me see if I can get it on the, we'll just do this. We'll take our time and go through this. All right. Now, if you look this up, the term Indian archipelago can refer to either the Malay archipelago, also known as Insular India, between mainland Southeast Asia and Australia, named for the Austronesian languages found there, or the Indonesian archipelago. Now, we're going to focus on Malay archipelago because you're going to see in just a moment. Just bear with me. But the Malay archipelago is another name for Indian archipelago, which is what we looked up here, right here, dealing with Japhet, right? So watch this. If we look up Malay archipelago and we go to, let me get it in the Wikipedia, show you something. Now, watch this. All right. And my moderators, y'all know what to do in the comment section for people that's going off. Now, watch this. It says the Malay archipelago, which also is known as the Indian archipelago, is the archipelago between mainland Southeast Asia and Australia, and is called Insular India or Indo-Australian archipelago. Now, here's the key point. The name was taken from the 19th century European concept of Malay race, later based on the distribution of Austronesian languages. Now, we got to look up Austronesian languages because it's telling you that these languages or this ethnicity of people are endowed by the Malay race or Malay archipelago. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Austronesian. Okay. And let me see here. Let me see if I can find it. Bear with me, because it's going to show you. All right, so here it is. According to Robert Bluss, 1999, Austronesian is divided into several primary branches, all but one of which are found exclusively in Taiwan. The Formosan languages of Taiwan are grouped into as many as 9 first-order subgroups of Austronesian. All Austronesian languages spoken outside the Taiwan mainland, including its offshore Yami language, belong to the Malayo-Polynesian. Now, why is that important? Because when you go, okay, and this is how you look up these people. When you look up, the Malayo-Polynesian languages are a subgroup of the Austronesian languages, which goes back to the Malay archipelago. With approximately 385.5 million speakers, the Malayo-Polynesian languages are spoken by the Austronesian peoples outside of Taiwan in the island nations of Southeast Asia, Indonesia, and Philippine archipelago, and the Pacific Ocean. We know that to be what? When you go over to those little islands, you have you have Tonga, you have Fiji, you have what's the other ones? Obviously, you got New Zealand, but there's some other ones around these places, right? Yeah, Guam, another one, right? It says with a smaller number in continental Asia in the areas near the Malay Peninsula and Cambodia, Vietnam, and the Chinese island Hainan as the Northwest geographic outliner, right? So basically what we're doing is we're tracking where these people actually come from. And the Polynesian group of people is synonymous with the Austronesian languages, which goes back to the Malay archipelago, which proves what, G-Man? That they will have to be of the Isles of the Gentiles, which goes back to Japhet. Right? Now, I can further back this up. Let me go here real quick. Can further back this up because, see, when you follow the Hebrew and you study the words and go through the maps, you're able to trace the people, which is what we've just done. But if I do this, there you go. Bingo. The Polynesian connection to the Malay archipelago is rooted in shared ancestry and language, as Polynesians are descended from the Austronesian people who originated in the mainland Southeast Asia and migrated through the Malay archipelago. But remember, how did they migrate? Because what happened to them originally? They got pushed out by the what? The YT man from the original land. That's how they were able to go to the islands residing in the Pacific Ocean. But they don't tell you this history, right? So essentially, it says this migration led to the Malayo-Polynesian language family, which later branched into oceanic languages as populations moved further east into Polynesia. Linguistic similarities in words like water, shared cultural features like reduplication are evidence of this deep historical connection. So what did we just prove here? That the Polynesians go back to the Austronesian of Malay archipelago. And when we looked up Indian archipelago, what did it tell us? Let's see here. When you look up the term, you know what, let me do it this way so it comes out much clearer. Let me see. Cause see, Google, they be tripping sometimes. They don't know, they don't want you to know the actual connection. But let me see if I put this in. Just trying to make it simple and plain for you. And hopefully all of this is making sense. All right. Do you brothers understand it so far, what I brought out? Let me know. Let me see. Right. Here it is right here. Here it is right here. All right. And no, all so-called black people are from Africa. Well, let's disprove that. All right. Because number one, nobody is black. Number two, I got your misinformation right here. All right. Because obviously you don't read books. So let's see if what you said holds some weight. All right. This is on page. Matter of fact, this is a Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary put by your top scholars around the world. Top scholars around the world. Page 213. Let's read what it says. It says Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, but not the what? He was not the progenitor of the so-called black people in Americas, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites, but not the so-called black people in America, because the so-called black people in America didn't come from Africa. So-called black people in America didn't come from Africa. Because you have something that's called, let's look this up. Let's look this up. Because this really gonna get them. You have something that's called Shemitic Afro-Asia. Shemitic refers to a branch of Afro-Asiatic. Didn't say anything about Africa. Afro-Asiatic language family, not a separate entity. The Afro-Asiatic, okay, includes languages spoken not only across Africa, but also Western Asia. Also known today as what? So-called Middle East and Arabian Peninsula. All right, hold on. I ain't make my guy. Hold on. All right, there you go. I ain't even know I ain't had you. Right now, to when somebody doesn't know their history, when somebody doesn't know the secular history, all they can do is call you a liar. We just read it literally off of, so Google's lying. Google's lying. You see what I mean? I guess Google is lying. It even gives you the links where you can find this stuff, but they're lying. Shemitic languages are found across North Africa, all right, and Western Asia, because Middle East, like the Levant, where you have Israel, okay, all of them, that's actually a part of Western Asia, which is where the so-called blacks of America came from. They didn't come from no damn continent of Africa, because the continent of Africa was given to the Hamites. But you can take it with a grain of salt. You don't have to believe me. All right. We're just here to bring out edification. All right. Everything that I brought out, take with a grain of salt, do your own research. But back to the brother G-Man, because my apologies, G-Man, for that, interruption. So let's put all of this together. We know that when you deal with this, when you come back to this, all right. And oh, by the way, let me show you where you can get this information. All right. If I come over here to the website, Where is it? Okay, let me just type it in real quick. This is where I get my source of information, realhistoryww.com. Things they don't teach you in school, records, archaeological evidence, proof of secular history that they will never teach you in school, right? And I'm going to go to over here, Etria, which is your true Polynesian people today. And this is my information here. As you can see, a verified real website, okay, that you can go down to, and it gives you all the historical evidence, all right, things of that nature. Now, I can't show most of all the pictures because they'll cut the live, all right? But again, and there's the other one there, all right? And it gives you the history of what happened to the true Japhetic people, which is your modern day Polynesians today. Okay. Put my thumb over that. Do they not look like the people residing in the islands today? All right. They made statues, man. So they know, see, our oppressor, the ones, the people, the elite, they know who everybody is, man. It's just that you don't know who you really are. You don't know. And matter of fact, while we on the subject, I'm gonna do you one better, G man. If you still on here, I'm gonna show you something. Let me see here. What's that article? Let me see if I still got that article real quick. I think it's called let me see if I still yep. Now you can Google it. Google listen, just come over here, go to Google and type in 12 tribes chart. Go to images on Google, and it's right there. Okay, simple Google search. It's right there. And then what you do is you save it. And then, as what I did, I went to my nearest Forex shop, which over here is called Office Works, and got it blown up. Easy. Very simple and easy. Download it on a USB or whatever, take it and get it blown up. Anybody can do it. Simple and easy. All right. Now, this is what I wanted to find. This is from New Zealand, Pacific.scoop.co, New Zealand. Samoan Minoans from ancient Crete, the origin of Polynesia. Why did they say from ancient Crete? Because the Polynesian people today are your true Minoans, which goes back to Ionia. When you look up Minoans, let's do this. Minoans. Let me see if I can find this. Because they was part of that. That proves to you that they were let me see here. Let me just find it. Right, there you go. It says the Bible actually calls the Minoans the Caphtorim. That will be the name within the scriptures. How do we know? For one thing, Caphtor was the Hebrew word for Crete. A cognic Captora appears in the ancient Assyrian references to Crete. This is why you have to learn how to study the words. You got to learn how to go back into the Hebrew. All right. And then in the English, Captorum, They were called Minoans. It's very simple, but also they was known as Ionia. All right, because when you go back to Genesis, you go to Yavan or Yawan, right, which is what we did the first time around. All right, let me go back to it. All right, Yawan, you have Ionia or Ionians, okay, which was next door to Crete, which means they would have been the same people. So you had the Minoans and you had the Ionians. When you look up, let me see if I can do this. All right. Yeah, it's a lot to take in, man. But, we've been doing, well, myself, I've been doing this for about 5 years. I've only been in the truth. And within that 5 years, there's been a lot of deep history, research, learning. And then you got to put it all together with the scriptures, which many Israelite groups can't do because we're under the true leaders, all right, of the Israel nation, which is the apostles of Great Millstone. And this is how they teach us to break things down. All right. But let me see if I can find this. Yeah. So you can look it up. So when you look it up, it tells you had the Ionians, the ancient Greek, which were a dark-skinned nation of people. Then you had the Minoans, which are your Samoans, which were called Cretans or Cretians. Okay. And this article, let me go back to it, Salakia. Let me just type it in. Right. This article definitely came straight out of New Zealand, published July 1st, 2011, because when they did the research, they found out that the origin of Polynesia came straight from the Minoans from ancient Crete, proving that the Samoans are from the line of Japhet. They are Japhet. They're Japhetic nation of tribes. They're not Israel. They're not of Israelites. Now, G-Man, does that mean that you don't have Israelites mingle amongst the Japhetic nations? No, that doesn't mean that, because you have some Samoans today or Tongans that are actual Israelites. Why? Because Israel mingled amongst those nations. Okay. So don't get discouraged, my brother, because look, even though you could look like a Japhite, you could still be an Israelite, because Israel has mingled amongst the heathen nations. That's why we can't judge a book by its cover. The scriptures tells you that, judge not based upon appearance. So although you may look like another heathen nation, that don't mean that you are of them. You could be an Israelite, and you are an Israelite through the seed line of your father. It's just that when Israel got with the other nations, they got with the women of the other nation. They started to mingle amongst them. But what you got to understand is, once the man gets with that woman, the child may come out looking like that woman. But okay, so I'm gonna show you. All right, let me give you an example. So if I come over here to Google, let's go back, and I'll give you an example. You should know him. All right. I'm gonna type in Dwayne The Rock Johnson's parents. Now, The Rock, who we all know from wrestling, who's now a A-lister Hollywood movie star, that's his father, a so-called African-American man. That's his pops. See what I'm saying? But who did his father get it on with? His mother, who's a what? She's a Japhite. So when you look at The Rock today, who does his features come more after? The mother, which is called mitochondria DNA. Look that up. But guess what? The so-called African Americans today are what? Judah. So that will make the Rock, through the seed line of his father, he's a Judite. Doesn't matter if he takes after the features of his mother. Because when you look at him, you would think that he's fully Samoan, but he's not. You see what I mean? Look at his father. Let's do one more. So you, and I know you get it, brother, but I'm just doing this, in general for other people. Let's get one more example. Let's get one more example. This is former NBA superstar Blake Griffin. Let's do this. This is Blake Griffin. That's his father, which he's a Levite, I believe. He's from the tribe of Levi. His father is Haitian. But that's his mother, an Edomite. Now look how he turned out. That's still a Jake, because through the seed line of his what? His father. This is why, G-Man, we can't judge a book by its cover, because the holy seed is mingled amongst the nations. Let's get that. Let's get that in the Apocrypha so you can understand that on a deeper level, so to speak. Because we've mingled the holy seed. Okay. And this is what happened back then. All right. This is First Esdras chapter 8, verse 69 through verse 70. It says, the nation of Israel, the princes, the priests, and the Levites have not put away from them the strange people of the land, nor the pollutions of the Gentiles, to which are the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and Edomites. For both they and their sons have married with the daughters, and the holy seed is mixed with the strange people of the land. And from the beginning of this matter, the rulers and the great men have been partakers of this iniquity. Guess what, G-Man? The same thing is going on today. Wherever our people are dwelling at, they're getting it on with the other nations. Now, okay, Tavita, what about Pacific Islanders? Well, G-Man, if you want to link up with Tavita and just let them know, because I just went over it. But in short answer, Tavita, just to let you know, no, the Pacific Islanders are not Israelites. They're of the tribe of Japhet. They're the seed of Japhet. And I just went through it. All right. But if you link up with G-Man on the comment board, he'll run you through that real quick, because I just gave him the breakdown. All right. If y'all want to link up. All right. But no, the Polynesians, they go back to Japhet. We just broke that down. All right. But coming back here, that I'm just showing you that you can't judge, because see, Israel has mingled the holy seed being amongst the heathen nations. And this is why it was prophesied in Jeremiah, the 12th chapter. Okay. In the 9th verse. Let me get that for you real quick. Jeremiah 12:9. It says, my heritage is unto me as a speckled bird. What does it mean to be a speckled bird? That means you're going to have Israelites that is going to be as dark as Wesley Snipes, or you're going to have Israelites that's going to be red bone like this. Okay. That's why you can't judge a book by its cover. Okay. Now, another great question. What about the Malaysians? No, the Malaysians, they also go back to the Malay archipelago, which they also fall under the seed of Japhet. Now, do you have Malaysians who may be Israelites? Yes, you do, because when our people went over, especially to the Philippines, let me type this in just to prove what I'm saying. Let's look this up. This is what happened, just to prove what I'm saying. Yes, many African Americans served in the U.S. military during the Philippine-American War, while a significant number, including notable figures like David Fajan, defected from the American forces to join the Filipino independence movement. So guess what? Because you had a lot of Judites, so-called African Americans that fought in the Filipino War, majority of those Filipinos down in the Philippines, guess what? They're Judites, they're Israelites. Because what happened? They mingled the holy seed amongst the heathens. Did we not just read that in the scriptures? Now, the Melanesians, such as Papua New Guinea and all of them, no, they will be considered Japhites because they actually go back to the Malay archipelago. All right. But like I said, you have to discern through the spirit. All right. Let's get this real quick. Romans chapter 8, verse 16. That's why we can't judge based off appearance. Romans 8 and 16, the spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. That's speaking about Israel. We don't judge. It didn't say, oh, well, the spirit told us to judge based upon how we look through our skin complexion and our facial features. No, you got to judge through the spirit. When you see that person, the way that their mannerisms, the way that they talk and stuff, Israel collectively as a nation of people, we are the salt of the earth. Okay. So when you're dealing with a nation of people that is known as the salt of the earth, they're going to stand out compared to your average Joe. And so when you judge that based upon the spirit in your mind, you're thinking, all right, yeah, you look like of the other nation, but just judging on how you're moving, you got a little bit of rhythm to you, you know, that soulful flavor, that salt. Guess what? You could be an Israelite. You see what I'm saying? So that's why we have to be very careful when we're teaching the word. Just because you're not on this chart doesn't mean you're not an Israelite. This is just the main focus is just in America, because according to end time prophecy, the bulk of the 12 tribes will be in the land of the north. That does not neglect the Israelites who have been scattered in continents like Africa, okay, Asia. All right, check this out. You got let me go to YouTube real quick. I'm gonna show you something. You got a group of Chinese people calling on the true names. Hold on, let me go to because I did a lesson on it. Hold on, bear with me. Let me go to my channel real quick. Let me go to my channel and let me see if I can find it. Right. Now I'm gonna show you something. Okay, so you got this shag. Oh, you know what? Let me do this. Let me see. Did I put it? Yes, I did. Take me straight to that video. All right. Damn. Hey, check this. Wow. They took the video. Okay. So you know I'm not making this up. This is from CTB Vlog, okay, entitled Yahweh Shagdai Bless China with Lyrics. This is a group of Chinese people who are claiming to be Israelites, showing you that they know who they are, even though some of them have been scattered in China. Now, I left, this is on my page. I done this a year ago. There's the video. But see, when the truth comes out, look what they did. If you click on a video, this is what comes up. This video is no longer available because the YouTube account associated with this video has been terminated. They terminated his account. You see what I'm saying? Now, let me see if I can play it. Hold on, just bear with me. Okay, yeah, I can actually play it. This is fair use. That's enough on that. But Shang Dai means supreme, and they called upon his name, Yahweh. Now, how would these people in China know the name Yahweh? Because they're Israelites. You don't see us well, no, they can't be Israelites because, like my man said, all so-called black people is from Africa. Did we not look up the word Shemitic? Did it also say that Shemitic is Afro-Asiatic? Going back to Western Asia, did we not look that up? See, this is what I'm saying, man. Hey, Hosea 4:6, our people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Okay, you don't have the wisdom, you don't have the knowledge. That's even in the scriptures. You don't study to show yourself approved. This is why you come to our camps. This is why you come to our lives. Like the elder apostle Tahar always says, right? You need us. We don't need you. The 100% truth is over here. We don't shun away, and we say that with gratitude. We say that with all humbleness and ready of mind. We don't say that to be egotistic. We don't say that to be prideful. We say that because we have faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai that, hey, what we're bringing out is the 100% truth. We don't care whether you believe it or not. Just because you've been manipulated from your childhood through your parents' upbringing, all of that and the third, and when the truth comes to you, you're highly offended because you believe in the lies that you were told. That's a you problem. That's not a us problem. See, our job through the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is to cast down the imaginations. We're breaking down the strongholds that's been placed on our people for centuries. Lying to us, telling us that we were one way when in actuality we were something totally different. That's what we're doing. We're trying to break down those strongholds. So if you are offended at the information, which last time I checked, everybody, Google is totally free, is it not? You just have to be taught how to actually use it and know what you're looking up, know what you're looking for. That's the issue with a lot of our people. They're not taught how to research properly. So you become offended when we bring out real secular history. And it's not that you are offended at us. You are upset because you're waking up to the fact that you were told a lie, not us. Well, technically, yes, we were told a lie, but we've woken out of that deep sleep so that we can get the 100% truth. That's all that I'm trying to say. Does everybody understand that before I move on? Yeah, maybe you shouldn't say that on the comment board, but to your point, let's say little snatchers, we'll say that for subliminal talk, all right? Because I don't want you to get kicked off the live, but let's say little snatchers should be what? Unalive? Well, that's according to the scriptures, that's going to happen anyway. All right? Because the scriptures tells you that if you seek blood in so many words, blood is pretty much going to seek you, meaning what a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So everything that's going on around the four corners of the earth of us losing our little ones, okay, through means of trafficking and other things that are going on behind closed doors, right? I'm just trying to keep it PG so we don't cut the live because a lot of people is coming in being fed through this truth. Yes, there is a heavy judgment coming for those individuals. All right. There's a heavy judgment coming. And you can rest assured, all right, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai is going to get those individuals because the scripture says every man shall give an account thereof in the day of judgment for what they did in the flesh. Jacko says, so Spanish and Portuguese descendants are Israeli. Technically, yes, Jacko, but also remember during the let me get this here for you. All right. So you can get some more edification on that. During the time of the Renaissance era where you had those Sephardic Jews expelled from Spain, those were true Israelites. For an example, okay, in the book of by John Maccabee, all right, Mackie Salakia, which you can find on Google if you just look his name up, it'll give you the actual book, page 26 and 27, called The Memoirs of the Secret Services, 1733. He described the Secretary of State of Great Britain as being a very so-called black man, like a Spaniard or Jew. Why? Because the real Jews were so-called dark skinned, not the people that's dwelling over there in the land today. This is why when you look up Christopher Columbus, a lot of the people that he had on board of his ship when he came to the Americas, they were all of this. They were Spaniard or Sephardic Jews, but they were forced through Christianity. They were forced to leave the law, statutes, and commandments and go back to, or not go back to, but they were forced into Christianity. Because when you actually read up on the scriptures, Christianity has nothing to do with the Bible. Now, yes, you'll have somebody that'll go here and they'll say, well, for instance, let's go to Acts, I think it's 11. And yeah, right here. Now, this is Acts chapter 11, 26. Let me break it down. All right, let's take our time and let's go through this. It says, and when he had found him and brought him unto Antioch, and it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church and taught much people, and the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. Now, what was the history going on here? Does anybody know? You could put a yes or a no in the comment. Why were the disciples who were Jews called Christians first? Where did that name originate from? Does anybody know? Does anybody know why they were called Christians first in Antioch? No? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Google, which is free, by the way. Let me see here. Let me look this up real quick for y'all so I can pull it up. Okay. If you look up, let me see if this comes up first. Yeah, here we go. Now, because Christianity came from this sect right here. You had a deity by the name of Serapis Christos. And it says the Serapis Christos concept arises from statement by the Roman Emperor Hadrian in a letter around 134 AD, where he described the religious climate of Alexandria because you had Jews in Alexandria of Egypt. And the reason why those Jews in Alexandria, Egypt were worshiping Serapis Christos is because you had a general by the name of Ptolemy Soter who was responsible for creating this deity in Egypt when he took over Egypt out after Alexander the Great, which is something else they don't teach you in school. And what happened was this. It says stating that those who worship Serapis were in fact Christians, and that those who called themselves bishops of Christ were devoted to Serapis. See, it didn't say they were devoted to Yahweh Shai, who you ignorantly call Jesus the Christ, because they were called Christians if they were worshiping Serapis Christos. Now, when you look up Serapis Christos, this is how he looked. This was made up by Ptolemy. That's your real so-called Jesus the Christ right there. So in actuality, you're not worshiping the true Messiah of the Bible. This is who you're really worshiping, because these were the Christians that they were calling. So when we go back to Acts 11 and 26, that's the reason why the disciples, they called them Christians, because they thought they had them in an alignment with the worshipers of Serapis Christos. This is why later when you jump to, let's see here, 2 Corinthians, the 11th chapter, this is why Paul spoke to the people in Corinth. And he said this in verse 4. For if he that cometh preacheth, and I'm going to just read it verbatim, another Jesus whom we have not preached, or if ye received another spirit which ye have not received, or another gospel which ye have not accepted, ye might well bear with them. Because what was going on? There was different messiahs being preached. So Paul had to make a distinguish between the real Messiah, which his real name is Yahweh Shai, Hamashiach, okay? Right? They were getting confused because who was the other alleged Messiah? His name was Serapis Christos. That's where you get the word Christ from, which really means anointed. It goes back to Christus. And the true the worshipers, or them calling themselves Christians, they were devotees of Serapis Christos. That's what that word Christian really goes back to. So think about that. The next time you call yourself a so-called Christian, really you're saying that you are a devotee of Serapis Christos. You're not worshiping Yahweh Shai. Does everybody understand that now? Okay, you got to know the history in order for you to know the mystery. Does everybody understand that? It's right. Like I said, Google is free. It's very free. So you better get this information while you can before they shut the internet down. Okay, and the thing I like about the AI overview, you see these little circles here. These are links, which means they go back to a back page, an actual source where you can look this information up to show you that it's not BS. Okay. So you're asking me the question and I'm teaching you and showing you this information is free. The issue is they don't want you to know it because they don't, once you start putting two and two together, it's going to destroy their narrative of what they're teaching our children in schools and in the churches, which we're not supposed to be in church houses because the scriptures speak against that. That's in Acts the 17th chapter. The Most High dwelleth not in temples made with hands. Why? Because you are the temple. Where two or three are gathered in my name, in the names of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, I am in the midst of them. See, when you know what you're looking up and you type it in, Google's going to do the work for you. But if you don't know what you're looking up, they're going to give you what they want you to know. They're not going to give you the 100% truth. You see? So that's the reason why when you deal with the church fathers back around these times, they were getting confused with the true Messiah, Yahweh Shai, with Serapis Christos. That now you know why, when you go back to Acts, the 11th chapter, why the disciples were called Christians, because they got confused. They thought, oh, they sound like those people over there that's worshiping Serapis Christos. That's why they were called Christians. Now you know what that word really goes back to. It's very simple. Connect the dots. It's not that hard. You see? So, yeah, any more questions on that before I move to my next topic? Because I got about 30 minutes. But if y'all good with that, I'll move on. Let me see what else I want to get. No, I can't show that. They're going to cut the live down. So let me just do this probably. I don't even want to speak on that because they're going to shut my live down. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to be careful. Let me see. What else can I show y'all? Let me see. Okay, I guess we can go into some holidays. And well, before we go into that, I'll show y'all this real quick. So basically, this is how it all got started. All right. But even before this, you actually had a person by the name of Philadelphus. All right. Which he was through the Ptolemaic line. And they are the people that started making gods after their own people. Now, Cesare Borgia, for those of you who don't know, was the illegitimate son of Rodrigo's Borgia. And when he passed away early, Rodrigo Borgia got this man here on the right side named Leonardo da Vinci and also another man by the name of Michelangelo, and caused both men to draw out the best depiction of his son. And that depiction was used as a god. Does everybody understand that? Now, can we find this in the scriptures? Absolutely. First precept we're going to get is the book of Job, chapter 9, verse 24. It says, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. Right? And what's an example of him covering the faces of the judges? This is an example. They took the true depiction and they whitewashed it, which is called iconoclasm. You see? These are the judges. They cover up the true depiction of the Messiah, the angels, and the apostles. Okay? And so when you jump to the Apocrypha, which is another reason why they took the 14 books out of the King James Bible. That's why when you buy a Bible, you only have 66 books instead of 80 books. You're supposed to have 80 books instead of 66. But anyway, so let's read this in Wisdom of Solomon. Verse 15, for a father afflicted with the untimely mourning, when he had made an image of his child, soon taken away, now honored him as a god, which was then a dead man, and delivered to those that were under him ceremonies and sacrifices. And we come back over here. That's what this was all about. Because that was the Pope, Rodrigo Borgia, you can look him up. He made his son in the image of a god. And this man, Leonardo da Vinci, won the competition with Michelangelo because he brought out the best depiction of his son, Cesare Borgia, which is who you are really worshiping in the churches known as so-called Jesus the Christ. That's really who you're worshiping. Anyway, let's get back to the scriptures. So, verse 16, thus in the process of time, an ungodly custom, grown, strong, was kept as a law, and graven images were worshipped by the commandments of kings. And that's what they did. So every time they were not in Rome where they dwelt, if they were overseas, they would always take the picture and worship him from a land far off. That's what they initially did. Right. So going back, verse 17, whom men could not honor in presence. Right. Because they wasn't there on land. Because they dwelt far off, they took the counterfeit of his visage from far, meaning his picture, his painting, and made an express image of a king whom they honored, to the end that by this their forwardness they might flatter him that was absent as if he were present. And also the singular diligence of the artificer did help to set forward the ignorant to more superstition. But again, I said that Before Rodrigo Borgia picked up this sort of thing where he took an image of his son. This started with Philadelphus. You could look him up. He came from the line of Ptolemaic. Now, to prove what I'm saying, all right, because I got to back it up. When you look up Philadelphia, let me see. Right, here it is right here. All right. Philadelphus made his family honored as gods. Yes, Ptolemy II, Philadelphus promoted a dynastic cult that honored his family as gods, a key development in the Hellenistic ruler cult. He initiated divine honors for his parents, the deified Theoi Sototes, which means Theo in the Greek goes back to God. All right, Soter, all right, goes back to Savior. So Savior gods. And also deified himself with his wife, sister, Arsinoe II, as Theoi, or Theoi, however you pronounce it, Salakia, Adelphoi, during their lifetimes. Following Arsinoe II's death, he further established her as a separate goddess. You see? So, the Wadaquam, the Ptolemaic dynasty cult, look that up. And the cult was that they took, as we're reading here in scripture, all right, they made themselves as gods. It says, verse 19, for he, peradventure, willing to please one in authority, forced all of his skill to make the resemblance of the best fashion, meaning the ones who died within the family, they made them in the form of a statue, or they made paintings of them coming in a representation of gods. Verse 20, and so the multitude, allured by the grace of the work, took him now for a god, which a little before was but honored. And this was an occasion to deceive the world. Is not the world being deceived right now when they go to church? Because you're worshiping a false image. For men serving either calamity or tyranny did ascribe unto stones and stocks the incommunicable name, meaning a name that cannot be changed, which is the name of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh. Okay. So as I stated before, once again, do not get mad at us when we are simply bringing out the 100% truth. I took you into secular history and I backed it up with scriptures. This is something that your church, they will not be able to do. You want to know why? Because majority of these churches are under what's called a 501c3. Look that up. Which means that they are exempted for taxes, granted that they teach a particular doctrine. And if they go astray from teaching that particular doctrine, they lose all of their benefits from their tax exemptions. Think about it. Why some of you, not all of you, because some of your pastors ain't rolling like that, but for some of you who go to these churches and your pastors are showing up, driving AMGs, BMWs and stuff, come on, man. You really think they got a second job to afford that? No, they're making their money off you. You're the congregation. You're the one that's paying tithes every Sunday. But yet, wait a minute. Why are you paying tithes? And that's the same pastor or preacher that's telling you that the laws were done away with. So if the laws were done away with, if so-called Jesus the Christ died for your sins, right? Watch the message. This is how they spew the message to you. So-called Jesus Christ died on a cross for your sins. And they'll tell you that the law was nailed to the cross. Well, guess what? If the law was nailed to the cross, why are you showing up every Sunday paying tithes? Answer that for me. Because yes, when we go back to the law, tithes is in the law. It's in the book of Deuteronomy. But it wasn't in the sense of you paying money. It was in the sense of livestock to the Levitical priesthood. But if the law is nailed to the cross, why are you paying tithes every Sunday? I thought that should have been nailed to the cross as well. which means you shouldn't be paying anything. Do you see the logic now of what I'm saying? Our people have to learn how to think. Go and read the scriptures for yourself. Read it. The scripture says, blessed is he that readeth. Revelation chapter 1 and verse 3. You see? So we got to understand that. All right. I just wanted to touch on that.